Hi, and welcome to the 22nd episode of the Amiga CD32 review project. This episode is all about Bubble and Squeak, yet another cute platformer for the Amiga, developed and published by Audiogenic in 1994. In Bubble and Squeak, you control a small boy called Bubble. Don't ask me why, he's just called Bubble, alright? Bubble was just about to fall asleep when he heard a thump and a strange squeaking noise from the wardrobe. Within, he finds Squeak, a strange but cute blue cat-like alien who asks for Bubble's help in defeating the evil cat o' nine-tails, who's enslaved Squeak's kind and forces them to work in the porridge mines of Gruel. Bubble of course agrees to help Squeak, otherwise there wouldn't be much adventuring to do in this game. Squeak tells Bubble that he traveled to Earth by jumping into a black hole. Will any black hole do? Asks Bubble, whereafter Bubble and Squeak jump into a hole in Bubble's sock. This story is only told in the manual, by the way. During development of the game, it was actually called Barney and Clyde, a Bonnie and Clyde reference of course, but before release they changed the name to the less ominous Bubble and Squeak. The game was released under Sega Mega Drive as well, by the way. As the player, you control the human boy Bubble as he tries to see himself and Squeak safely through the levels. Bubble can jump and shoot these little stars and operate switches and stuff. Pretty standard platforming fare really, but where this game shines is in the teamwork between Bubble and Squeak. Squeak does absolutely nothing unless you tell him to. You can ask him to follow you around and he'll do his very best, but he can't jump as high or as far as Bubble, so you'll need to guide him through carefully. Sometimes you guide him to a lift, ask him to stay there, jump far away and activate the switch, so that you can pick up Squeak wherever that lift ended. Sometimes you may need to give Squeak a quick little kick in the behind to make him progress through the level. This turns Squeak into a ball. Think Sonic when he's moving really fast. And he thus rolls around the level, reaching new heights and places he couldn't go elsewise. Squeak isn't just a nuisance though. Often he's invaluable help when, for example, he throws Bubble into the air so that he can reach higher ground, or when you buy him some gum, which can make him fly around with Bubble sitting on his back, run real fast, or simply be able to run as fast and jump as high as Bubble can, while blowing bubbles of gum to sap the aliens. All of these magical bubblegum powers only last as long as Bubble is sitting on Squeak's back though. In each level, there's a little submarine token that you can pick up. If you pick this up, then at the end of the level, you get to play this small shoot 'em up. Here you must attempt to reach the end of the level where you can battle the cat of nine tails. I love me a good shmup, and while this is definitely no contender for Shooter of the Year, I enjoyed these little bonus games. These segments are quite hard though, and they do require both some skill and some memorization to get through. Bubble and Squeak is a really beautiful game, the Amiga CD32 at its best really. The sprites are detailed and well done, the backgrounds are colorful and enjoyable, and the controls are tight just like you want them to be in a platform game. The gameplay is excellent as well. It plays a bit like a puzzle platformer where you have to figure out how to guide both Bubble and Squeak through each level, and the puzzle element does get harder and harder as you progress. But let's take a look at what the reviewers back in the day had to say about Bubble and Squeak. CU Amiga gave Bubble and Squeak on the CD32 92%. They finish off with, the sound and graphics are impeccable and the animation is fast and smooth. Some might say the lack of an animated intro takes away from the presentation, but it can't take away from the game. The characters really give the game a lot of atmosphere too, and small touches like when Bubble kicks Squeak around a maze of corners and Squeak ends up flying around the screen at 100 miles an hour are nice touches. This is a highly polished game with cuteness and ultra playability. I love it, but why don't you see for yourself? The one awarded it an 83% score, writing that Bubble and Squeak is being universally welcomed to our screens as if it was royalty. Why? Because of the wonderful interplay between the two central characters, that's why. Using Squeak to negotiate the trickier sections of each level is an inspired touch and adds an immense amount to the challenge. Plus, and this is a big plus, the mouth-watering graphics and majestic sound effects help enormously, conspiring to make the whole game look and feel just wonderful. They go on to conclude, basically, what you've got here is a fine game that appeals on just about every level. It's not quite the best thing ever, but it's better than most of what we've seen lately. Amiga Power only awarded Bubble and Squeak 77%. The author's main gripe with the game is the babysitting of Squeak, which sometimes means that you have to try 3 or 4 times before you get him over a jump that Bubble can easily do. I'd agree that this is slightly annoying, but after a while you learn how to exert more fine-tuned control over Squeak. If you've watched any of my earlier videos in this series, you'll know that I love puzzle platformers, and this title is no exception. I thoroughly enjoyed experiencing Bubble and Squeak, and this is yet another game that I'll have to revisit sometime. I award this game a 4 out of 5 score.